Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Councillor John Ward, Chairman of the Joint Museums Committee, and I would like to welcome you all to this meeting. The meeting is being held in person at County Hall and is also being streamed live on the County Council's YouTube channel. A fire alarm test is not expected during the meeting. If the alarm sounds, we must evacuate County Hall. In the event of an emergency, please make your way to the nearest exit and meet at the muster point located on the main car park. Thank you. Right, if I could have apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Geoffrey Freeman, substituted by Councillor Brian Lawn, Councillor Jeremy Rowe, substituted by Councillor John Morland, Councillor Robert Savage, Councillor Karen Vincent, substituted by Councillor Philip Dygan, Councillor Julie Broycheck-Colton, Councillor Martin Booth and Ellen Pavey.
Thank you. Right, item 2, minutes of the meeting held on 24th of October 2025, which are on from page 5. Anybody have any comments on those? Those were at the meeting? Yes. All agreed? Thank you. Right, so moved. Thank you. Any declarations of interest, please? No, thank you. Right, item 4, updates from the chairman. Just one. I'd like to pay tribute to a member of staff who died this month, actually. And this is a former director of Norfolk Museum Service, Catherine Wilson, OBE. She was director of the Museum Service 1991 to 1998. And she further went on to serve 6 years on the Heritage Lottery Fund. So we pay tribute to her service to the council. Thank you. Item 5, Breckland Area Museums Committee from page 13. And hand over to Councillor Kybird to introduce those, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We started the meeting on a sad note that one of the Suffolk Punch horses, Bowler, passed away in November, and we had a minute's silence. Under urgent business, I did bring to the committee's attention that the Thetford Town Council have expressed a wish to pursue taking over ownership of Ancient House Museum and needs various details to be investigated, and I do have a meeting on Monday and with Robin and the Breckland officers from their assets department. So there's more to come on that. There is the planned exhibitions include a special exhibition on the 100th anniversary of Prince Frederick Dulip Singh's death, and that was originally scheduled for a January launch, and a new date has been set for the 13th of March. There's lots of refitting of exhibition areas going on ahead of that. Ancient House continues to work with a range of schools to offer interactive workshops, and with the help of Thetford Educational Foundation Trust, all Year 2 pupils in Thetford were able to visit Norwich Castle, and as well as having local delivery on the subject of castles, which fits in with Key Stage, well, Year 2. And then the Thetford's Heritage Collective, which was the Teenage History Club, has featured as a case study in a recent report commissioned by Arts Council England. Collections volunteering at the museum continues with ongoing work on scanning and documenting the recently acquired postcard collection, as well as supporting exhibitions. The Friends continue to support the museum, and I did highlight the possible opportunity of acquiring the next door premises, which are in a very poor condition, that would enable a much larger offering to take place in Thetford. Museums produce specialist material for Sikh groups, and that's increased the number of visitors in that area. Then we move on to Gresson Hall. They continue their themes of special event days, days with a difference, Norfolk school holiday activities, ticketed events and promotional days. A particular special day this year was the 21st of September. This marked 50 years to the day of the first event held on the site, and it was the Right Honourable Baroness Shepherd, who was the founder treasurer, I think, founder secretary of the Friends, was on hand, and having left her notes in the car, still gave a very good address. Thank you. Apple Day was on the 12th of October, which is 2,191 visitors, is always a popular event. Special temporary exhibitions included Swarm, which is an invertebrate automaton. I think that's an interesting concept. And further exhibitions working with Edible East. And then the season comes to the end, there's a full busy winter schedule, and I think everyone's looking forward to the museum reopening in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of things on this. I recently talked to somebody in Bury St Edmunds who was suddenly aware, despite living there for about 20 years, suddenly aware of the museum in Thetford, and really the connection with Albert and hence Suffolk to a point. And so I just wonder whether we, or how much we publicise the existence of the Thetford Museum and what it specialises in and around sort of the Bury St Edmunds and the Suffolk area. So there's that question. Then also, just to pick up on what the councillor said, really, is whether we could have some more details on the issue of Thetford Town Council suggesting they would like the building. I just wonder who would make or who would be involved in a final decision, and whether or who owns the building at the moment, that sort of thing. I just wonder whether we could expand on that. Thank you.
If I can come back on that. Robin and I are meeting with Breckland on Monday, and we will highlight all the issues to be addressed. But I would expect, if there is further progress in this direction, it should come to this committee for any final approval. Thank you.
And just to answer the question about marketing for Bury St Edmunds, that's a very good point, and something that I think our marketing currently does cross the county borders, and a lot of our, in particular our social media, we have paid meta campaigns, so we can target very specific areas, and we work with a media manager to help us do that. So we can review whether it's currently reaching Bury St Edmunds or not, and take a view. Thank you.
Yes, Robert.
I would add that there are a number of residents of Thetford who are unaware of the museum's existence as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Penfold.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Robert, and all the good work you're doing there. Just thinking about the Teenage History Club, so you nationally recognised, so that's really good. Could you just explain, are there any steps being taken to sort of secure that longer term funding to make sure that that sort of stays a permanent part of the youth offer? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penfold. So, as members are aware, the former Teenage History Club now call themselves THC because some of them are actually no longer teenagers. No, it's fine. I keep forgetting I have to be corrected. But it's because, to their credit, a number of Teenage History Club have been with the club for so long, they're no longer teenagers. And as members may be aware, Kick the Dust engages with young people up to the age of 25. And we've actually got some young people at Thetford who've gone beyond that age who are still wanting to sort of support the programme as it goes forward. And I think that's a real credit to the team at Ancient House, particularly Melissa Hawker, the learning officer, who sort of provides really close support to THC members, many of whom, before being in THC or Teenage History Club, were in the History Club, which is for the younger children who want to engage with the museum, and there's a sort of pipeline that sort of feeds through, which is fantastic. So some of those young people will have been working with Ancient House and its collections and its staff over many years, which is great. And Teenage History Club, as it then was one of the inspirations for the original Kick the Dust project where we secured funding, as members will be aware, from the National History Heritage Fund originally. And that original application was informed by some really good practice across the service, particularly in Great Yarmouth and in Thetford. So there's a long legacy of that group in Thetford really being at the centre of Kick the Dust activity, and that continues and will continue into the future. So it's now effectively an integral part of the Kick the Dust programme. Currently, that Kick the Dust programme receives funding through Arts Council England, National Portfolio Organisation, uplift funding specifically to support our work around Kick the Dust because of the measurable impacts it's had. And we receive funding as well, as members also aware, from Norfolk Public Health around outcomes for young people's mental health and well-being, in addition to lots of other project grants supporting the work. So I think although they characterise themselves as a sort of very much their own entity, THC, they're very much part of the Kick the Dust programme, and the Kick the Dust coordinator works really closely with Melissa, and they are able to access all of the wider programme, including the project grants that we provide, which actually has supported a lot of the work that THC does. But it's a fantastic group, and one that we want to continue to support in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Fisher did ask about the ownership of the building, which is currently owned by Breckland District Council. But if it does transfer to Thetford Town Council, it shouldn't affect us too much, I don't think, as a Joint Museums Committee. Okay. Anything else from anybody, please? No? Thank you very much then. And we'll just note those minutes. Moves us on to Great Yarmouth Area Museums Working Group. Minutes of the meeting held on 12th of January. There's nobody here from Yarmouth who was at the meeting, so we'll ask Robin to introduce the minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. And speaking on behalf of Councillor Geoffrey Freeman, Chair of the Working Group, and who's represented today by Councillor Brian Lawn. Just to give members a quick update on the latest meeting of the Yarmouth Group, so that's in the supplementary agenda. And as the Chair mentioned, that meeting took place on the 12th of January, hosted at Time and Tide Museum, and amongst other things, had an extended discussion around the Miffy exhibition, which is still on this show at Time and Tide. That exhibition runs through until the 1st of March, and it's been really successful. We've seen really strong visitor numbers at Time and Tide. So that was a real focus for discussion in terms of how the exhibition has been performing, and also the increase that have been seen not just in visitor numbers, but also in retail sales. And the operations manager, Andrew Smith, reported that we'd also seen quite a big change in the sort of demographics of visitors. So more young people coming, including students, beyond the sort of more traditional family-oriented visitors that we would perhaps expect to see for that type of show. So I think members were really sort of pleased with the progress on that exhibition. And also a discussion around the next temporary exhibition, which will be taking place at Time and Tide at the end of March through to September, which is Pirates, Fact and Fiction, a touring exhibition that, as with many touring exhibitions previously hosted at Time and Tide, will be supplemented by our own fantastic collections. Members also heard about the event programme running at Time and Tide, including the really successful Winter Friday Talks programme, and members welcomed the fact that that programme was back up and running. There was an update for members on the redevelopment plans for Time and Tide and the pending submission of an expression of interest to the National Lottery Heritage Fund as the very first stage, if you like, of preparing a more detailed funding bid that focuses on a holistic redisplay of the Time and Tide galleries, which are now 20 years old, which is extraordinary. Still looking good, but this is all around trying to ensure that those galleries remain relevant and engaging for the future. There was also an update on collections management work, including the work of volunteer teams who continue to support a lot of collections work at Time and Tide. And then an update from Learning Manager Colin Stott, who's with us this afternoon, on the really diverse programmes offered by the learning teams at Time and Tide. And as always in that Area Museum Committee meeting, an update on the Kick the Dust programme and progress in Great Yarmouth, and also recognition that Kick the Dust programme's work in Yarmouth had been recognised by the Broad Society with the award of the Lady Mayhew Prize, which recognised the contribution of the Kick the Dust programme delivered through Time and Tide Museum in raising awareness of young people around everything to do with the Broads. And there was a celebration presentation event at Time and Tide, which I had the privilege of joining, where a number of the young people very much led the event, which was fantastic. So, Chair, that is a brief summary of what was discussed in a very full meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Robin, for that. Just picking up on the big ticket exhibition, Miffy, which sounds great. Could you just explain to us how exhibitions like that remain accessible to low-income families? Thanks.
Thank you. So, as members are aware, we do sort of recognise the impact that charged admission can have on certain visitors, and we have I think an established mechanism for seeking to address that wherever possible. We also, I think, offer quite affordable ways of people accessing the museum. So I think in the report, Steve will be presenting a bit later, talking about the Museum Pass programme, and that offering really affordable way of having free admission to all Norfolk Museum sites, not just individual ones for the whole of the year. So that's a very affordable way of people accessing our museums. Again, as I'm sure members are aware, we do also offer at all of our sites a twilight ticket, which is really good value for those particularly wanting to see an exhibition. So that's always been well used, I think, by people wanting to come and see a particular temporary exhibition, whether it's at the castle or at Time and Tide or at other sites. And that twilight ticket is really good value. We also support, as again members will be aware, sort of free admission days like Heritage Open Day, National Lottery Players Day. So across the course of the year and across the course of temporary exhibitions that normally have a run of several months, there will be opportunities for people to engage. And of course, a number of the exhibitions that we offer, particularly at Time and Tide, work really effectively with schools, and all Norfolk school children have free admission to our museums. So we think we have a mixed approach to that, but very aware of addressing those barriers where we can.
Any other comments or questions, anybody? Yes, Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman. Really just to mention how pleased I am to see there's going to be a link with the old gasometers. I feel that they're lost in so many places. They were certainly lost in Norwich, but they weren't particularly smart. Whereas you got the King's Cross one that is amazing, and so I passed the Great Yarmouth ones a number of times and thought, you know, so I am pleased. I can't quite imagine what it will turn out like as per the description on the papers, but when it is finished, then I'll pop along and see it. And I say it is. I think it's really good that we've decided to include something from the gasometer so that they are remembered as a point, a major point in history, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just say that, so this, for members' benefit, is the project known as Flux, which is referenced in the supplementary agenda minutes. So this relates to creating a sculpture which is partly forged from pieces of the Great Yarmouth gas holder, and it's fitting, I think, that piece of industrial history is going to be displayed at Time and Tide, which very much tells the story of the town and the borough as well as the maritime history. And I think we're all looking forward with interest to seeing the maquette, which is the small-scale version of the finished sculpture. The company that we're working with, Holcomb Forge, we've worked with very successfully in the past. So those members that have, I'm sure all of you have been to the redisplayed Norwich Castle. The Holcomb Forge were responsible for all of the recreated ironwork. So all of the medieval doors and all the other fixtures and fittings, all the ironwork was created by them. So we have a lot of confidence, I think, in their ability to produce something that's very creative, but also very sympathetic. So really interesting project, and one I think we'll be reporting on to a future meeting of this committee, when we can hopefully show members how that is literally shaping up. But I think we're all looking forward to seeing the finished piece in the courtyard at Time and Tide.
Okay, anything else on Great Yarmouth? No? Well, we'll just note the minutes then, thank you. Move on to Norwich Area Museums Committee, meetings held on 9th of September and 2nd of December. Ask Councillor Laws to introduce those, please.
Hello, thank you. Apologies for being late. I wasn't expecting to be introducing these minutes, but if I can formally introduce them, and hopefully, you can. The officers can talk to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so very happy just to summarise some of the points of discussion. So there are, it's a bumper addition from Norwich Area Museum Committee, because there are two sets of minutes from the 9th of September and the 2nd of December. So the minutes from 9th of September, starting on page 26, the reports for that committee covered the period May to July. So very much leading into the summer, and that predated so the report period predated the reopening of Norwich Castle. But in the meeting itself, not surprisingly, there was a lot of discussion around the reopening of the castle, which took place at the beginning of August, and members very interested to hear how that opening had gone, including how the visitor numbers were looking. But we also had the opportunity to discuss some of the recent activities that were delivered as part of the Norwich Castle activity plan, and that included the Flight of the Falcon performance, which was a contemporary dance piece that was one of the milestone events within the activity plan, where a number of local dance groups came together to give 3 separate performances of a new dance piece that celebrated the opening of the keep, and I had the privilege to go along to see one of those performances. Absolutely fantastic. And we had, I think, 5 different local dance groups who were using the new spaces really creatively, and that was a really special way of sort of marking the build-up to the opening of the new castle displays. In that meeting, we also gave an update to members on and ran a medieval boot camp in the summer leading up to the reopening. We also discussed the Channel 4 documentary, The Castle, which had been broadcast during the August bank holiday. And members very interested to hear about how that documentary had really helped drive visitors both during the school summer holidays and at the time of the meeting, also once the schools had returned. The meeting that took place on the 2nd of December again received an update on the reopening of the castle. We were able to report to members on how the visitor numbers were looking, and as members will be aware, really strong attendances at the museum. The learning manager, Jan Pittman, also introduced, and there was quite a bit of discussion around the new schools offer that's now been launched at the castle, including the Key Stage 1 event for younger primary children called Life in the Castle, which reuses all of the new recreated spaces really effectively. There was also an update for members on the summer holiday programme, where certainly from August onwards, learning staff were able to really creatively use the new spaces in Norwich Castle as the base for a really sort of broad range of learning activities. Again, we presented an update on Kick the Dust, and as always in the Norwich Committee, a lot of discussion around different aspects of the Kick the Dust programme. Members were also very interested to hear about the Access All Eras campaign, which is the campaign to promote Museums Pass membership. And there was also some discussion about the dungeons at Norwich Castle, where we'd had an issue with mould, and we were advising members at that meeting that we were hoping to open the dungeons for tours in January. Members who've spotted the Eastern Daily Press today may have noticed an article about the commencement of dungeon tours at Norwich Castle, and we've been piloting those for a little while now. So that's a really nice thing to have back. And at the end of the meeting, Jan Pittman, our learning manager in Norwich, gave a really comprehensive update for members on the breadth of work that was undertaken as part of the Norwich Castle project activity plan, looking back over 5 years of delivery. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we are hoping to arrange a tour of the dungeons for members of this committee at some point. Right, any questions? Yes, Councillor Penfold.
You might leave a few of us there, perhaps, Mr. Chairman. So just, I'm not looking at anyone. Thank you, Robin, for that. I just was interested to read about the partnership, the relationship with the Matthew Project that's been going for a year or so. Could you just tell us a little about how that works and how the castle would sort of benefit the young people involved with that project? Thank you.
Thank you. So my knowledge of that project is a little bit limited. So what I will suggest is that I ask the project coordinator, Tricia, to provide a sort of written summary, which we can then share with members.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. Anything else on Norwich, anybody? Yes, Councillor Laws.
Yeah, just I'd just like to commend the work of the museum staff in Norwich and area, and obviously the refurbishment, revamp of the Castle Keep is sort of front and centre, but there's a lot of other work going on, both educationally and, if I could say, curatorially and artistically, and it's all excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question. I noticed that it was raised at the meeting about the operation of the top lift, and it was referred to as spare parts were wanted. I know it wasn't in use when I visited with my family in January, but what is the position with the lift now?
So this is the platform lift on the, so this is the lift that provides the final access to the keep roof for those that aren't able to use the flight of stairs. So we have had a number of issues with the platform lift, and we're working closely with the main contractor resolve those issues. So we're aware how important it is for our visitors. It's a really key part of providing access, and we're treating it as a really high priority in terms of getting a resolution. So I can assure members we're working really hard with our main contractor to get a resolution around the issues we are having. But we've also been making sure that we're providing information to visitors on the website so that anybody planning a visit, it's clear about whether there are any issues they need to be aware of. And it's also something we're engaging with visitors about when they come into the museum at the ticketing desks. And for those visitors that are able to use the short flight of stairs from the top of the main lift, they're obviously still able to access the roof. But it's certainly something that is a key part of the project and something we're working really hard to get sorted.
So effectively, the list's not working yet then?
So it's currently out of action. It has been working, but it's now out of action, awaiting the visit of some lift engineers.
Right. Have we paid for it?
So it's still within the defects period, effectively. So because we're still within the 12 months, the responsibility for dealing with the issues sit with the main contractor. So that's why we're working closely with them to make sure that the issues are resolved quickly. And I've been in contact with them this week to reinforce that point, and it's something they're very aware of. So I think everybody is looking to get a resolution, and we're expecting lift engineers to be on site soon to sort it. But it does sit, the responsibility for it sits with the main contractor for 12 months from the point of practical completion.
Yeah, one bit of good news is that the Norwich City Council are upgrading and maintaining the mound, Castle Mound. They're doing quite a lot of work out there at the moment, so that'll be good when that's finished. Anything else on Norwich? No, thank you. We'll note those minutes then. That leads us on to Kings Lynn and West Norfolk, meeting held on 15 September. I can ask Councillor Linton to introduce those, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very much looking forward to a visit to the Norwich dungeons. On to, first of all, the Lynn Museum and updates from there. The current exhibition, May the Toys Be With You, which is a Star Wars exhibition, feedback from visitors has shown that this exhibition is attracting a high number of first-time visitors, so that's really encouraging, and that goes on till May 31st of this year. That will be followed by a temporary exhibition titled at the moment provisionally Unboxed, which is discovering Lynn's collections. This will be showcasing items not usually on display from the museum collection in the museum stores. Various family events, family trails and coffee mornings have been held, and workshops with particularly one that was Star Wars themed. So those have all been well received. We also had an update on the Newman Legacy Project. The Newman curator, Jan Summerfield, has been working on the cataloguing and documenting of material in the museum store. One of the projects the Newman Legacy has worked on is an updated animated film about the changes in the Seahenge environment. Other points to note: Lynn Museum participated in the Heritage Open Day with 665 visitors enjoying the free admission to celebrate the town's heritage. The museum also took place, or participated rather, in the Dragon Festival, which was a part of the Guildhall outreach project. That was all over the borough, and we had events in Downham Market, Hunstanton and Dersingham libraries as well. Lynn Museum also participated in the Boys Acorns project, which was it is a collaborative tree planting art project. So moving on, we had an update on the Norfolk Museums Pass and museum service teaching project, the museum trainees, and which continues to offer fines, identification and recording days in partnership with Norfolk County Council recording service. The Stories of Lynn, so their current exhibition was the Surviving the Railway exhibition, which marks the 80th anniversary of VJ Day. Again, we had lots of family events, Witchcraft Week, and a Halloween trail witch hunt. Forthcoming events include a winter-themed trail, Hibernating History, which will feature the museum throughout January, just passed. And in the February half-term, Stories of Lynn will host a Regency Ball Day on Tuesday, the 17th of February. Learning and outreach, the Lynn Museum continues to offer a range of school workshops. Over the autumn school term, the museum hosted 20 school visits with approximately 720 students. Stories of Lynn also has school visits, and in particular home education groups visiting the museum regularly and have visits with the Learning and Engagement Officer and volunteers. So that's all very encouraging. Kick the Dust activity in Kings Lynn, the Youth Heritage Collective in Kings Lynn called Time Turners continues to meet weekly and is currently researching, designing and curating a temporary exhibition for Stories of Lynn titled provisionally Norfolk's Role in the British Civil War. Moving on to Trews Yard Museum. The exhibition programme has had an exhibition, The Loss of the Beautiful Star, which was the 150th anniversary of the Fife fishing fleet disaster. There was also an exhibition of the Old Smithy, Deck the Halls, which was Christmas tree decorations through the ages, made possible by funding from Love Your Market Town Fund. Trews Talks, the Talks programme, the autumn programme, launched on the 25th of September and concluded on the 13th of November with 8 talks, all by local speakers, very popular with the audience. The Pat Midgley Memorial Lecture, the 11th lecture, the speaker was Associate Professor David Petts, who delved into the world of fishing on the Northumberland coast. That evening was, the evening event there included songs by the Kings Lynn Shanty Singers. Other museum developments, in December there was the 150th anniversary of the December 3rd, 150th anniversary of the Great Gale service at St Nicholas Chapel, followed by a wreath laying at Hardwick Road Cemetery. So the Trews Yard Museum fundraising continues, and Friends of Trews Yard are a very active and supportive friends group which contributes to a lot of the fund activity. Partnerships, so Truesyard and St Monans, that was as part of the 150th anniversary of the Great Gale fishing disaster, and links with St Monans, who opened a memorial garden on the 22nd of November. Truesyard also took part in the Dragon Festival, the town-wide Dragon Festival, which was well attended. And on top of that, learning and outreach activities, half-term activities included lots of Halloween activities. Social media and the website, the new website has been created in-house, and that is now online. The tea room improvements have also been completed, and that looks much better. And a slight, not so great reporting is a very slight drop in visitors to the Truesyard Museum, likely to be attributed to weather, cost of living, and unreliable public transport. And that concludes the Kings Lynn West Norfolk Area Museum Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comprehensive report. Councillor Banbridge, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just add about Truesyard? We're having a 35th birthday party on the 24th of March, mostly for North Enders, but anybody's welcome. And we're linking up with an organisation called Family Food, and they're going to make some traditional vintage food, as well as lots of other things, including samphire, which of course was a big thing in Kings Lynn. There was the samphire man who used to go around with his cart selling samphire. So it's big. I think he'd be quite interested to know how it's become the big thing in restaurants locally. Anyway, the funding for the 35th birthday has come through the Norfolk County Councillors Fund with Norfolk Community Fund. Yes, no, sorry, yes, and Norfolk Community Fund, and it has come out of my fund, but I have declared an interest, and that's been accepted. So we're looking forward to that. And I just wanted to say that, like all museums, we're very reliant on our volunteers, and we certainly are at the moment at Truesyard. We've got 4 part-time staff, one of whom also works in Cambridge, so she's not always available. One of whom has been in hospital with pancreatitis, which is very serious, and one of whom has got a chest infection currently. So I'm going tomorrow to open up. Luckily, I close up quite a lot when the paranormal visits are there, so I know my way around, and it'll be daylight, which will be a pleasant change. But it's so good how our volunteers and trustees are rallying around to help. We can't call upon people from other museums because we're totally independent, so it's working well so far.
Good. Pleased to hear that. Thank you. Right, yes, Councillor Laws.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say my wife and I visited the Lynn Museum, I'd say for the first time last December, and there is an excellent exhibition on Seahenge, as well as exhibits relating to the Hanseatic League, which is a particular interest of mine. We do have museums pass, but we were told that, as we've heard, entrance is free. I think we've heard that it's to do with the Lynn Heritage Year, or how long does the free period go on for?
So I can help with that, Chair. So free admission at Lynn Museum runs for 6 months from the end of October through to March, and that's funded through the service level agreement we have with the Borough Council of Kings Lynn and West Norfolk.
Great. That's every year then, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Every year, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Well, we hope you'll call into True's Yard next time. It's not one of our museums, and you will have to pay, but it's well worth a visit. So, okay.
And if I may interrupt,
Yeah.
we're also having a Hansa Day. I can't remember the date because it's somewhere back in my memory, but we have one nearly every year. So I'll let you know, and then you can come to that.
Yes, Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, thank you, Suzanne, for the report. Just picking up on the Newman legacy, which is obviously doing some significant cataloguing work there at the Lynn Museum. Is that, I'm just thinking, how long is that legacy? How long is it lasting? I mean, and are there plans in place to sort of sustain that, or sustain the outcomes once the legacy funding finishes? Thank you.
Thank you. The Newman legacy work, you say, has really focused on collections at King's Lynn, and as I'm sure members are aware, the King's Lynn collections are really extensive and very diverse, and the funding has enabled a team to undertake a really thorough audit of the collections, and also to make significant improvements in areas like collections photography. So that is a project, if you like, that is by its nature time limited, because its aim is to fully document and photograph the collections and then make that available online. So whilst the level of Newman activity at the moment is quite high and is funding the work of that team, once that project is sort of concluded, then the sort of draw on the reserve on the Newman bequest will reduce. It has also been funding some really useful sort of targeted work at Lynn Museum specifically, including improvements to some of the displays. So Councillor Laws mentioned the Seahenge exhibit at Lynn Museum, which has actually been in place now for about 15 years. So the Newman bequest funding is currently helping with the replacement of the audio-visual that shows the changing landscape, because the audio-visual that's there now is quite dated, very much of its time, and it's a really important part of people understanding the Seahenge story. So that, you know, so we've had a number of interventions like that made possible with the funding. And the responsibility for the sort of maintenance of the funding to ensure there is an ongoing pipeline is with the Norfolk Museum Development Foundation. So I'll probably hand over to Jo briefly at that point.
Thank you. Yes, so the funds came to the Development Foundation as a charity, and therefore it has been invested. The Development Foundation has an investment committee and chaired by Councillor Ward. And so that is in a way hoping that we can make sure that the funds exist for as long as possible.
Okay, thank you. I was just had a question myself, actually. I was just looking at the audience demographics for King's Lynn Museum. It doesn't say what period it's for, but in the age range, 55 plus, there are no visitors at all. Well, I would have thought that was going to be one of our main visitor ages, actually. Yeah.
I can explain that.
Yeah.
We recently launched, at the beginning of October, a survey that is sent out to all visitors who book online. So we have their email address and we send them a survey through Citizen Survey. So the data you have there was a very small proportion of time. We've had several thousand returns now, so next time you receive a report, the data will be more robust because it will have covered, I think there was a very small pool of responses at that point.
Okay, thank you. Right, anything else on King's Lynn? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Just following up on Councillor Bambridge's point, the Hansa Day is May 24th.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, anything else, anybody? No? We'll note that report then, thank you. That will take us on to item 9, Norfolk Museum Service Finance Monitoring Report from page 91. Ask Steve to introduce that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Committee members will be aware that we've been carrying a financial pressure for the majority of the current financial year 25-26, exclusively due to the slightly later than hoped for reopening of the full keep offer at Norwich Castle. However, since the reopening in August, I'm very pleased to say that both the direct admissions income and the supported secondary spend have been at much higher levels than they were early in the year. That was sort of forecast and expected, and the current position is that we're hoping that we will be able to reach the end of the financial year at the end of March if we perform well over the coming weeks, including the February half-term event, and not to necessarily need to draw down the relatively small forecast support from the CES Business Risk Reserve. So steady as she goes, but a positive improvement to the financial position in terms of the revenue budget as we proceed through the year post-keep reopening. I think that is the most significant highlight from the report, but happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on finance, please? Yes, Councillor Penfold.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Steve, for that. I'm just wondering where sort of in commercial income streams in the service, where the sort of strongest growth potential is, and whether you feel you need any support more widely to help grow those and to focus on them, to scale them, I suppose, responsibly.
Thank you. And as members will be aware, we gave an update at a previous meeting around the, I guess, the priorities for our commercial activity going forward. And clearly, you know, Norwich Castle offers the most significant opportunity for the service, and we've seen up in the run-up to Christmas, you know, really strong levels of interest in commercial hires, and we've now delivered successfully a number of commercial hires of very different shapes and sizes. Going forward, that is the priority area of focus for us, and we're now looking at and looking to implement some changes in terms of making a venue hire offer in Norwich. So it's really ensuring that we've got the right level of resource that's commensurate with the current and anticipated growth in demand. We have, as I think we sort of outlined in our previous presentation to this committee, now developed the commercial packages effectively, and we have now sort of got a number of successful events under our belt, so we've seen how the spaces have actually worked. So it's then about building that market and making sure we've got the right resources in place, and equally across the service, you know, continuing to identify those areas that are most fruitful in terms of additional income generation beyond, you know, traditional admissions, retail and catering, whilst we are also looking to maximise in those areas. And we've, I think, seen really significant success around growth in retail. A lot of that's down to our retail manager, who's been, I think, really successful at not only developing the new shop offer at Norwich Castle, but also across the whole service, you know, working really creatively with staff to ensure that what we offer is a bit different, and developing really good relationships with local makers and UK suppliers to mean we can offer something, whether it's at Lynn Museum or at Time and Tide or at Cromer or in Norwich Castle, a really sort of high quality retail offer that is also a little bit different. So we're working on a number of fronts, but I think what we are doing is really focusing our energies on areas of greatest return rather than trying to be too scattergun. So, and that's certainly the case, you know, now, and we're just reconfiguring our resources to make sure we can support teams to deliver what they need to do.
Okay, anything else on finance? No? Well, the recommendation is that we consider and comment on the latest monitoring position of the revenue budget, the capital programme, reserves and provisions, and forecast outturn for 2025-26. So you all happy with that? Good, thank you. Item 10, Norfolk Museum Service Risk Management, page 98. We'll ask Steve to introduce this, please.
Thank you, Chair. And for members familiar with our approach to risk, we have both a series of current risks and some that we consider met, but we like to keep visible to you for a range of reasons. They are historical, but also because they are ones that sort of come up from time to time in terms of questions that we certainly receive as a service. So there is one significant change proposed before you today, which is RM 14286, which is the reduction of centralised support services, and in discussion with Thomas, who leads our risk programme from the County Council point of view, we feel that that risk has reduced and can now be taken as met. In terms of central services, the museum service is really heavily reliant and very grateful for a range of central support services that it receives from Norfolk County Council, Finance, HR, colleagues in digital, etc. In the past, and when that risk was originally put on, we had some concerns going forward about the level of support that we're receiving through our digital programs, things like the website. We've seen fantastic performance, and we're deeply grateful to Jeff Connell and colleagues, particularly in the recent 12-month period for some really excellent support around things like Museum Pass and some of our digital programmes. So we think we can put that before you today as a risk that we'll keep it under review, of course, but can be deemed certainly closed and or met at the moment. Members from the previous committee will remember that you asked us, following a thorough conversation around the international position around museums and theft of objects, including gold, to have a little look at the historic risks that we have around there in terms of theft of museum objects. And whilst it remains a live risk and a concern to us, and dare I say pretty much every other museum around, we've been very systematic about the way we've reviewed our risks, and particularly some collections that we deemed higher risk than others. The net outcome of that conversation is that we don't think the risk needs to change in terms of the scoring or the narrative around it, but please be reassured that Norfolk Museum Service, all staff and led by Robin and colleagues in the curatorial and operations team, remain very, very vigilant at the moment and at present, and particularly around objects that, dare I say, are in the news at the moment, silver and gold being two of those, but not the only ones. So that risk has been reviewed as you requested, but no change. The one that is changed we have just described, and everything else remains unchanged, including our major kind of programmes. But happy to take any questions you might have on the risk programme and our approach. Thank you.
Councillor Kybird.
Thank you, Chairman. I note you don't consider LGR to be worthy of a risk entry.
I think we've considered that. It's actually touched upon in the performance and strategic report. So I think the County Council and dare I say the service as a whole, so it is visible to us. It is there. We're kind of minded not to include it as a specific museum risk, different from any other County Council service. And of course, once we're kind of aware of the government's proposal, we can then address that risk in a slightly different way. But I think our positioning, as committee members are aware of, and certainly have, you've directly expressed your desire, as have other partners, that Norfolk Museum Service is a pretty effective vehicle and has been for more than 50 years, and that whatever the future is in terms of an LGR announcement, hopefully the museum service vehicle is a really good one, fit for purpose, and will be ones that new unitary or unitaries in the future we'll be able to consider as a perfect vehicle to continue in its existing form. But yes, that's a long response to we have considered it, but it's not been included as a specific museum risk, other than a passing reference in that context in the performance report. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Steve, for this. Just looking at page 107, so Future of Arts Council funding beyond 2028. Are we contingency planning in the event that we get reduced or no Arts Council funding beyond that point?
I'll start with that and possibly hand over to Jack. It's a very, very good question. I mean, it is some time in the future, and obviously we have a little bit more surety and knowledge around the timescales that we're working to than we did have before. In the performance report and strategic report, probably Joe and I will touch upon where we are with the Arts Council generally, including I'll mention the review of the Arts Council by the government through the Hodge review. I'd say it would be catastrophic to lose our Arts Council funding. I wouldn't put it any less strongly than that. And the best mitigation we've always had is to have a strong, resilient museum service providing a comprehensive county-wide service, and to, at this moment in time, do our very best to diligently deliver our strong programmes. And at this moment, we are delivering those strongly and meeting the outcomes. I think our risk level is also something that we keep a close eye on at the moment. Our risk level is, I'd say, around the medium level and probably has reduced slightly given the successful reopening of the Keep. So I don't know if Joe's got anything to add to that in terms of headlines, but a great question and one that we do definitely not want to take our eye off. But yeah, the 2020 sort of 8 time frame is the one we're currently working to, and we'll be doing everything in our power to ensure that we're in a fine position to continue with our Arts Council funding beyond the current programme.
Okay, yes, Councillor Sexton.
Shibley Sexton. I was just wondering, I don't know how it works here, but normally when you're applying for Arts Council funding, if you don't get it, you can normally resubmit. They give notes. Would that be something, if it was unsuccessful, you guys would look to do, if it's possible?
We don't know what as Steve says, we are keeping a very close eye on it, and we'll make sure that we're in the best possible position to apply once the guidance is available.
Then my best wishes, because those grants are stressful.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, anything else on risk management? No, thank you. We're to agree the proposed key updates to risks as set out in 2.1 and the active and dormant risks as per appendices A and B. All happy with that? Thank you. Brings us on to item 11, Norfolk Museum Service Performance and Strategic Update Report from page 110. I'll ask Steve to introduce this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we have a presentation for you today as part of the performance on Gresson Hall, which I hope you'll enjoy and be able to engage with in terms of questions, and colleagues sitting to my left will take you through that when we get to that point in the report. So I'll just focus, if I may, as usual, on a few headlines in the two halves, the performance and then the strategic updates. So beginning in performance on page 111, you'll be pleased to see, I'm sure, the visitor numbers for the 1st of April to the 30th of November were 305,356 compared to 221,099 for the equivalent period 24-25. So that is almost exclusively due to the significant uplift and very strong figures we've seen since the reopening of Norwich Castle Keep in August last year. The performance we had last year, which you are benchmarking against in that kind of comparison, was actually a strong year as well. So it was a good year compared to the current one. The school visits, likewise, Colin's here as well, representing our excellent learning team. You can see the significant uplift, 39,095 young people visiting through formal school programmes from the 1st of April to the 30th of November, compared to 25,928 for the equivalent period 24 to 25. So, sorry, 23 to 24, that should read. So it's a really strong performance in terms of our key focus of learning and young people, and then also general visitors across all demographics. So we're still in the current financial year, and we will bring back to you, I think at the next meeting, a summary of where we are with the KEEP project, which we're not focusing on at today's meeting, and how we're getting on with that, but also the year summary overall. So on page 112, from 7.1 onwards, Joe's very kindly worked with the marketing team to give you a little bit visibility of something we probably don't give you much visibility on most of the time, which is our marketing program. We have been doing some really focused work. You will see it hopefully around the county in the form of bus adverts and billboards and hopefully on social media in terms of some of the digital advertising. But the marketing focus, unsurprisingly, for the last 6 months has been very much focused on the KEEP and the new offer. And that's been both driving large visitor numbers and hopefully also museum pass sales. So we've captured some of that key marketing activity and more importantly, I think the impact of that activity. So since reopening, as I said, we will come back to you with the full summary of the first 8 months of opening, but we've been averaging about 1,000 visitors a day, which is a significant uplift on where we would normally expect to be at that point. And most hearteningly, the momentum from the early opening, where you would hopefully get a peak, has actually sustained at a fairly similar level through the sort of quieter months of November and December and January. So we'll come back to you with those final figures as well. The marketing team is a small but perfectly formed team who have to do a huge amount, not just the new offer at the KEEP, but they are equally supporting all our other 9 museums and lots of offers that are not necessarily specifically focused on those museums as sites. And again, Apple Day, some of our great work at Time and Tide, the exhibition programme that you've heard about, Ancient House, etc. And we've just got a little case study there on Miffy, and that has been a great success. So lovely that we can be excited about performance at Time as Tide, whilst most of our sort of attention has been Norwich focused over the last 6 months. So we do lots of targeted marketing through things like the e-bulletin, and that's going very well. You've got some figures there in terms of subscribers on page 115. And Joe and the team, I think, have done an absolutely great job, particularly on the Norfolk Museums Pass, which, as Robin has just reminded us, is a key source of income, but also a key source of engagement and long-term resilience for service, building really strong links with our communities and providing the very best value that we can give in terms of access to all our museums all year round. We're deeply grateful, as we mentioned at the last meeting, to Arts Council England and the Department for Culture, Media and Sport for support, financial support to boost that campaign, create that campaign and boost that campaign through the Museum Renewal Fund. And again, that was an application made on the basis of the return on investment and the long-term sustainability of the service. So hopefully you'll find that interesting. The Museum Pass growth, the bottom line is on 7.5.6 on page 117, and at the writing of the report, and since reopening, the reopening announcement on the 2nd of July, which was ahead of the actual re-announcing, we sold 2,448 new memberships, including 285 which were purchased via gift vouchers, so people purchasing the gift vouchers as a gift for others, which was particularly good and buoyant around Christmas, but is a great gift all year round, and Valentine's Day coming up and all that kind of thing, dear members of the committee. I won't go into any great detail on page 118 in terms of the social media, other than that. That's a really nice sort of headline summary of some of the things that you might have spotted in terms of activity, and the posts that have particularly chimed with our audiences across Crescent, Time and Tide, and the Norwich sites. 122, I'll just hand over briefly to Robin, who might want to just say a little bit about... I'll go first to Joe in terms of teaching museum, It's been a very busy period for Joe and the Teaching Museum team, and Joe can give you the headlines and where we are with the current recruitment programme.
Thank you, Steve. So you'll be aware Teaching Museum is extremely effective and successful programme that we've been running for more than 10 years now, and it's gained a sort of national reputation, and as a result the number of applications we receive is very high. So this year we are recruiting 4 trainees working across the service in collections management, communications, King's Lynn, curatorial and King's Lynn. So we've had 503 applications for those 4 posts. We are shortlisting at the moment, and we will be holding an assessment centre in a couple of weeks' time, which for the 24 that we've narrowed it down to. So it's an extremely thorough process that involves staff from right across the service who help with shortlisting and interviewing and being part of the assessment centre. It's a real team effort, and I'm very grateful to all the colleagues who help out with this, because it's a massive undertaking. And just to say about our existing trainees, they're coming to the end of their 12-month job, and busy applying for jobs at the moment, but are working together on a really nice project about pilgrim badges. So they are at Walsingham today doing some research, and they are looking at creating pilgrim badges that can be sold as retail merchandise from the shop.
Thank you, Joe. Kick the dust, you've got the area focus reports in the area committees, and you've got the overall summary. I'll just pass to Robin in case he has any headlines to bring to your attention, but I think we'll consider that you've probably got most of the detail you need in the report.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've sort of covered that in the area minutes, but just to make members aware, we're currently recruiting for a new Kick the Dust coordinator, following the retirement last year of Christine Marsden. So Tricia Hall, who's the Youth Engagement Officer based in Great Yarmouth, has been doing a fantastic job holding the fort, and we're now actually going out and recruiting for a new programme coordinator, and what they'll be charged with doing is taking forward the recently published youth engagement strategy that sets out our stall for the next 5 years, and Kick the Dust is clearly integral to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Robin. Just to finish off the first part of the report before we move on to the presentation in front of you. So in terms of partnerships, on page 130, lots of great work continuing with Broadland and South Norfolk, particularly around the conservation training for the staff related to these, the many sites across those 2 district areas. And our work with North Norfolk District Council. Some of you will remember Dr. Leanne Melbourne, who's our Senior Curator Climate Change and Dynamic Coast, doing some wonderful things up on the coast with partners including NNDC Coastwise staff and staff from UEA, and we'll bring that back to you as an update in a forthcoming meeting. Not on the report, but again continuing work with Great Yarmouth Borough Council around Winter Gardens, supporting King's Lynn for the Guildhall project, and Joe and I met colleagues from UEA this week in terms of just revisiting our memorandum of understanding and making sure that everything was fitting together beautifully for both partners in terms of delivering great things, research, exhibitions and future events and exhibitions. So that felt a very helpful meeting. Exhibitions we've talked about quite a lot, so I won't say anything other than to draw your attention from a personal point of view to In Proximity, which is our Norwich Castle Open Art Show, which is opening on Valentine's Day. Really brilliant show coming together. 87 artists from across East Anglia, curated and supported by East Anglia Art Fund and Lisa, our contemporary and modern art curator. So it'll be a great show, and that work will be for sale, with the proceeds benefiting the artist directly, and East Anglia Art Fund. So lots going on. I'll move on to strategic developments and then tee up the Grassenhall conversation in a moment, but I'll just pause as I usually do at the halfway stage of the report in case members have any question on any of those elements. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. Apologies. Can I just go back to the Teaching Museum and the 500 plus applications you've had, which is phenomenal. Are these mainly college students or with affiliated appropriate courses, or is it individuals who have an interest in joining the museum service?
It's open to absolutely everyone, and it is designed to be an alternative entry route into the museum sector. Traditionally, it's a very competitive sector to find work in, and people are very highly qualified in terms of degrees, postgraduate degrees, and quite often have a lot of volunteering under their belt as well. So this is designed to open up the opportunity for people who haven't been through that particular route to have the opportunity to work in a museum. And it is open to people of all ages. There's no cut-off point. We've had trainees in the past from sort of, late teens right up to late 50s and everywhere in between.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Steve, for this. And I think congratulations across the service for extremely strong performance. So really, really very positive. And good news about the castle, I think, as well, that the visitor surge at the beginning is being maintained, because obviously those repeat visits are critical, aren't they? And how we encourage repeat visits, and I'm sure you're doing all you can to do that, and the data bears that out. So I'm just wondering, are there any groups that you feel are particularly underrepresented in the visitor data at present? And if there are we seeking ways to engage them?
I think we've got a really broad demographic coming. At the moment, we're trying to assess whether we are attracting people from further afield than before, which was one of our objectives. So we're trying to work out whether people are coming as sort of day visits or, sort of tourists to stay in the city. In terms of our sort of target groups, we have some really, really good work going on, particularly through our learning team, who are working in a really sustained way with particular communities that we identify have traditionally not been as active museum goers as some of our more traditional visitors. So I think our learning manager Jan is doing some very interesting work with early years, which I think you may have come across that work, but that's working with very targeted communities.
I was just going to say, Jan is fantastic. It's such a good thing he's doing there.
So yes, I think we can provide you with some data again after this meeting, but I feel pretty confident that we're reaching all parts of society.
Thank you. Councillor Schmierer.
Yeah, thank you very much. First is just a point to say how excellent first of all, to congratulate you, as Councillor Penfold has already said. Second one is to specifically say how excellent I found that campaign Access All Eras. I thought in terms of the messaging, it was absolutely on point, exactly what you wanted to do. On the issue of marketing, though, I suppose I've got a little bit of a question about messaging generally. Now, of course, we were in receipt of a significant amount of money from the National Lottery, of course. There was times, I've got to say, that I felt it was we were almost being a little bit too sycophantic towards the National Lottery. And I can understand the reasoning, of course, why, given the amount of investment that they made, but the National Lottery, for many, is a tax on the poor. I'm going to confess I do occasionally play the National Lottery, but I'm not on the demographic that is put out by gambling, and this is one means of doing that. So I'm just wondering about the messaging to get that right, because we're talking about sort of underrepresented groups. We're talking about making it accessible for the more deprived areas of Norfolk and Norwich, certainly. So I was just wondering about getting that messaging, the nuance right between obviously thanking donors like the National Lottery, but also, you know, promoting gambling. And it's just something I just want to question how you're sort of getting that messaging nuanced and right, please.
Thank you. It's a really interesting question. I mean, I'd respond and say I hope we've thanked the National Lottery Heritage Fund. They have been a significant funder as of Norfolk County Council, but we've had many other trusts and foundations, both brilliant local ones and national ones. They're available. You know, you can see the thank yous we've got in terms of the funders board on arrival, in the galleries, on our digital media website, etc. So we are deeply grateful for the support we've had from the public, from business, from sponsors, and from the lottery. I think in terms of the question you'd ask about kind of access, I think I'd come back to probably Robin's answer of it's really quite beholden upon the service that when we have these wonderful opportunities that they're available to as many people as possible. And I think we've worked really hard to get a funding structure which actually gives that kind of access through the free days, through the pop in at the end of the the day, means tested benefit, free access, etc. So we will continue to do our very best with your help to find the groups and the people and the families who have most to benefit from that, and make sure that they're able to access it, particularly in brackets if the financial ticket price is a barrier to them making that entry. So thank you.
Okay. I just want to say the important work that we do with the Kick the Dust was highlighted at the recent Children's, Families and Community Select Committee on 16th of January. And members of that committee expressed their appreciation and thanks to Norfolk Museum Service for their work with young people. So that was nice to note. Right, anything further, please, on this item? No?
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I'll hand over to colleagues to Robin and Rachel and Colin, who will take you through. So we've had your focus for very good reasons. I think recently on the Keep. We will return to the Keep. I think the next time we meet you. But nice to be reminded that Gresson Hall is one of our other superstar 10 museums, has not been overlooked and ignored. At all, but certainly not over the last 6 or 12 months, because we've been doing some really exciting work and some future planning, which we'd love to hear your thoughts about. Over to Robin.
Thanks, Steve. And you're going to have a trio of presenters. So myself to start things off, and then I'll be handing over to Colin Stott, who's the learning manager covering the east and west parts of the county, and then Rachel Kidd, who's the curator based at Gresnell Farm Workhouse. And giving apologies today is Hannah Jackson, the operations manager, who's not able to join us. So I'm doing Hannah's bit instead. So this presentation is designed to provide members with a brief overview of the current development priorities for Gresson Hall. In 2024-2025, we partnered with the environment team to commission the very experienced cultural consultants, the Audience Agency, to work with our staff, stakeholders, users, non-users, a really broad range of interested parties to create a 5-year development plan for Gresson Hall that was all around focusing on building audiences, building engagement, maintaining relevance, and also, crucially, supporting income generation. That development plan was concluded, and we've been able to actually start using that now to inform our planning. It identified a number of sort of priority areas for us to focus on, as well as some goals. And you won't be able to read this, I'm sure, but what it's talking about is areas like refining the positioning and brand of Gresson Hall, so what's Gresson Hall all about, the use of evidence-led targeted marketing, integrated storytelling on the site, Gresson Hall serving as a community and local resource, particularly around supporting active volunteering, serving as an environmental exemplar, and everything that happens at Gressonall underpinned by really robust monitoring and evaluation. The work carried out by the audience agency also did a lot of work around audience segmentation, understanding who our existing audiences are and identifying priority audiences for the future. And following on from the recent conversation, at Gressonall we've got three sort of key categories of visitors, and these are the ones where we best focus our energies going forward. So they've always got wonderful names when you're talking to consultants, but this is the history and heritage buff category, who are typically over 60, based in Norfolk within 45 minutes. And if they're coming into Norfolk from outside, they'll often be National Trust members. So that's a really key constituency for us. As, not surprisingly, mindful of the range of offer at Gressonall, family day out category. So these are adults with children, often multi-generational, children under 5 to early teens. In terms of local catchment, it's sort of 1 hour drive time and typically coming from Norwich and the market towns. But if they're coming in from further afield, they'll often be holiday makers coming from the Midlands. And the third category is history families, who are sort of a slightly older audience, adults with slightly older children, often coming from Norwich and the cities of East Anglia, but also engaging visitors from London and the South East. So this type of audience segmentation really helps us shape our programming. It also helps us to shape our marketing strategies, and it's all around then building visitor numbers and engagement. Also, in terms of current areas of priority that we'll be hearing more about in a moment, the Gressonall Environment Hub. This is reflected in the strategy because it sort of focuses on Gressonall's developing role as a place that really helps to engage people with their environment, and also helps people engage with the County Council's work, including the climate strategy. And all of that is parcelled under the brand of the Gressonall Environment Hub. As part of that, we've been working really closely with the Wendling Beck Environment Project, which is on the doorstep, 2,000 acres, a group of neighbouring farmers that are doing really inspirational and pathfinding work around landscape regeneration and nature restoration. So we're really pleased to be working with them, and the partnership with the Wendling Beck is really developing strongly, and that's one of the crucial underpinning elements for the Gressonall Environment Hub. And the work of the hub has been tangible on the site as well. So this is the Gressonall Community Tree Nursery that I know a number of members have had a chance to visit for themselves. It's the most tangible outcome, if you like, of the Environment Hub work. And the tree nursery, staffed by colleagues in the environment team, supported by volunteers, is making a direct contribution to Norfolk's campaign to plant 1 million trees. At that point, I'm going to seamlessly pass on to Colin, and he will introduce the next section.
Thank you very much, Robin. So, continuing with the Environment Hub theme, I'm pleased to announce that since the launch of the Environment Hub in autumn 2021, we've had excuse me, over 25,000 people engage with hub activities, and those have been led by our Environment Hub officer, Ben Earl, but he's also been supported by colleagues across the museum service and colleagues from the environment team, as well as staff from a number of different partner organisations focused on the environment. We have a very active schools programme with three different events. The Key Stage 1 session introduces young children to farming and helps them to build connection with nature and understanding where their food comes from. And for our Key Stage 2 and 3 programmes, those are designed to encourage young people to critically engage with issues around waste management, climate change, land use and sustainability. We also have a really active schools outreach programme, and the sort of centrepiece for that is our Forest Gardens for Schools project, which is a partnership with the Saw Trust, the John Innes Foundation, and we have 4 schools there who've developed forest gardens on their grounds with student committees helping to manage these spaces. Northgate High is a good example, and there the committee manages 2 wildflower meadows, a tree nursery, and a fruit tree orchard that they've created from scratch over a 3-year period. And in 2026, Ben and the team are developing a new annual conference for school site managers, head teachers and grounds contractors that will support schools with their climate action plans. This is being developed in partnership with Norse, the Norfolk Wildlife Trust, and Let's Go Zero, with support from the Department for Education's National Parks Partnership as well. So that's a really interesting development from the hub, and will help hopefully support those schools across Norfolk with their climate action plans. As well as the schools programme, we have a public events programme running throughout the year, mainly focused at Gresson Hall, where we have popular events such as Open Farm Day and Apple Day, and our annual Earth Day event in April. And this provides a platform for environmental organisations, community groups and young people to come together and showcase their work. And this year we've got a group of students from East Norfolk Sixth Form College who are currently creating an exhibition on local chalk stream habitats for the event as one of the activities on the day. The hub also supports a range of ticketed skills workshops, particularly traditional skills like scything and hedge laying, but also fruit tree pruning and fungi identification are part of that programme as well. The hub is a key partner of the Norfolk Community Biodiversity Awards and sponsors their Young People's Award. And our environment volunteers on site at Gresson Hall are monitoring the condition of our various habitats, cataloguing the insects and plants found online, and they're hoping to develop an online map to show people from further afield all of the fantastic habitats we have on site, and also to chart improvements that we can make to the habitats over the coming years. Another recent development is that we've recruited a new Kick the Dust project worker to specifically engage more young people with Environment Hub activities, so bringing in additional support for Ben and the team. And they'll be developing projects with young people aged 13 to 25, and they'll have a particular focus on providing more opportunities for young people living in our rural communities. Move on to the school slide, please, Robin, which is the next one. Fantastic, thank you very much. So another key and very important part of our work at Gresson Hall is our schools programme. So we have a busy year-round programme covering a broad range of historical periods from the Stone Age to the present day, and this sees around 10,000 students visiting each year from schools across Norfolk and beyond. And we're also playing host to increasing numbers of home-educated children and young people and their families as well. That's definitely a growth audience for us, and is particularly expanded since COVID, with lots more children electing to stay at home. And we work with the home education team at Norfolk County Council to provide support for those children and their families. Another key area for us is our activities for early years children and their families, and we're very pleased to be part of a national programme at the moment called Mini Wonders. This provides an enjoyable, accessible and supportive museum programme for groups of parents and caregivers and their children aged 2 to 4. And we run batches of 8 weekly sessions where facilitators help families explore and practice skills that support their child's social and emotional development. And there are lots of opportunities for creativity, social connection and fun as well. Our priority audience is low-income families in the poorest 30% of households. And it's established that early years are when the foundations of physical, emotional and social development are laid. And however, it's also known that children growing up in low-income households are more likely to miss out on resources and experiences that support their development. One protective factor is providing effective information and support for those families helping caregivers to create a nurturing and enriched home environment for their children. As I said, Mini Wonders is part of a national pilot programme supported by child development specialists and leading museums. It's jointly created and funded by Art Fund through a legacy grant from the Foyle Foundation and Leicester. We worked with 9 families in the autumn term from nursery close to Grassenhall, and we're planning to work with 2 more cohorts of families in the spring and the summer term as well. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to Rachel.
Hi there, thanks for having me. I'm here to talk really quickly about plans for something very exciting happening in the next couple of years at Grassenhall. So 2027 will mark 250 years since the building, then a house of industry and then later workhouse opened. And so I hope you all agree that it'll be a once-in-a-generation opportunity as an anniversary to celebrate, commemorate the site and use it as an opportunity to enhance our knowledge of the site's history as well as an engagement from audiences. We're really delighted that we've got funding from the National Lottery Heritage Fund to support this project, as well as some match funding from the Friends of Grassenhall. Thanks, Robin. This is just a quick overview of that 250-year history that we'll be looking at as part of the project, all the way back in 1777 when the building opened as a house of industry. So one thing that makes Grassenhall quite unique as a workhouse museum is that it actually predates the national workhouse system and also continued after that national workhouse system ended. So in 1948, the building became known as Beach House County Care Home for the Elderly. But we also more recently know that that included accommodation for homeless families or families in need of accommodation on site from the 1948 to the 1970s. And so it's something that we're hoping to find out more about as part of this anniversary project, kind of the 2 bookends of the history of the workhouse beyond what we already know quite a lot about as a Victorian workhouse. Thanks, Robin. So throughout 2026, we'll be starting the project really soon. Will be volunteer-led research into these 2 bookends of history. Importantly, we're hoping to take the opportunity to capture new living memory, testimonials and oral histories from this later period of the 1940s to 70s, while that period sort of remains within living memory. In terms of oral histories, we already have some really fantastic resources that were taken sort of in the 1970s when the building became a museum from staff members who worked there, but we're really hoping that we can also hear from, you know, the users of the site or local communities about what they thought, as well as the people in charge. So all this will feed into temporary exhibitions and public-facing activities as part of the project. So the first part of those outcomes will be temporary exhibitions and displays. So every year at Grassenhall we have a small temporary exhibition, and in 2027 the theme will be about the beach house history, including opportunity for members of the public to listen to some of those oral histories that hopefully we're really successful in collecting. We also hope the theme of the 1950s to 70s will help attract sort of intergenerational visitors and families. There'll be pop-up exhibitions, we'll have BSL interpretation of the main panels for those, and light updates to our permanent interpretation based on the research. Of course, for us, exhibitions are, engagement activities and events are a huge part of what we do at Grassenhall. And we know that people really love to see costumed characters and interpretation on site. So this grant and project is a great opportunity to do more of that. And this will include commissioning a heritage theatre group to create a performance that tells that longer history of the workhouse and performing that at various event days. There'll be enhanced school holiday programmes, specially funded event days, and we're really excited to work with Kick the Dust, as you know, as young people, who will create an animation which again tells this longer history of the workhouse, and that will be on display in our projectors on site throughout the celebration year. We'll also have a workhouse on the road, which will be outreach to groups, community groups and organisations across Norfolk, particularly locally, to kind of reignite interest in the workhouse history, you know, promote 2027 as the year to visit for the anniversary, and yeah, hopefully get lots of repeat visitors. This is all supported by a marketing campaign, which the funding will support, and 2 members of staff, so a research and community coordinator who will coordinate the research elements and things like the Workhouse on the Road outreach. And we're really delighted that we'll be funding an additional trainee as part of the Teaching Museum traineeship, looking at community heritage. So they'll be involved with lots of the engagement and events and some of the interpretation. So yeah, the outcomes for the project: new research, capturing history while it's within living memory, commemorate and celebrate the wider history of the site, and reach new audiences. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Look forward to this 250th anniversary. Any questions, anybody, on the presentation? Yes, Councillor Penfold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that presentation. Brilliant. The real gem, I think, Gresson Hall, isn't it, out there in the west, doing some fantastic work. So I'm just thinking around the environmental hub and that being an exemplar of good practice. Could you sort of bring us up to speed on how that practice is then shared across the service with other museums and staff and volunteers as well? Is that something that you are doing? I'm hoping you are. Thank you.
Thank you, and yes, absolutely. So, as you would expect, so whilst we do have, as Colin mentioned, a dedicated post based at Gresson Hall, Ben Earl, Learning Engagement Officer, his remit is county-wide. And that also includes working with a whole range of different colleagues to support relevant activities. Also, increasingly going forward, our natural history curator, Leanne, who is funded through the Coastwise programme in North Norfolk, is looking to incorporate some of those environmental hub activities within the programmes being offered, not just in North Norfolk, but the work she's doing across the county. As Rachel mentioned as well, and Colin also referenced, Kick the Dust runs through a lot of this. So we recently established a sort of new Kick the Dust Green team, and that includes young people based in the Yarmouth area, but working closely with Ben in terms of developing resources, again, not just for Yarmouth, but also for the county. And we had Kick the Dust young people actually creating displays at Gresson Hall for the Earth Day last year. So I think we're still, building the opportunities around the Environment Hub, but it's very much a sort of centre for what we're doing, and also, partnerships we have not just within museums, but with other parts of the County Council and beyond. So, Ben's developed some really effective partnerships with a whole range of organisations who are in that territory. But also, I think we're working really closely, continually with the environment team to make sure that the Environment Hub continues to support sort of County Council priorities and the wider work of that team. Because, one of the opportunities for Gresson Hall was to act as, dare I say, a bit of a shop window for the work that the County Council is doing, and the tree nursery is a really good example of that, where that work that is often not so visible, though really important, can actually have a public outlet through the Environment Hub, and that's then enhanced where we can really sort of use Environment Hub activities to support some of the bigger event days at Gresson Hall, whether it was Open Farm Sunday last year, Apple Day, or the Earth Day events. So we're still sort of developing that, and I think that will just continue over the years to come.
Okay, anything else on the presentation? No. Well, on the performance and strategic update report, we were asked to receive the update on the 2025-26 performance to date, to note progress in terms of our key Arts Council England and National Lottery Heritage Fund programmes for 25-26, and the services delivery of its Arts Council England National Portfolio Organisation programme for the period 2023 to 27. All happy with that? Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of the meeting. The next meeting is on Friday the 24th of April at 2 p.m. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you to all the officers. Thank you.